Boom boom, it's Don't Be a Hero podcast. We're back. Hawkeye part 2.
I
Hello,
love
man.
that. That was
Hello, mate.
amazing. Hello, my
That's
dear
gorgeous.
boys.
What a way to start the pod.
How are
How
you?
are you?
I'm good. You go first. How are you, my
Good.
friends?
I'm good. I'm good. Do you know what? I'm pumped for this. I'm excited.
Yeah.
I'm excited. I'm awake. It's
Yeah.
it's Monday night. I'm seeing your face. You've got your Groot cap on. I'm happy.
ready to go.
He's screwed
100%.
up. He's good. You know, we're ready.
Oh, okay. Yep. Or I mean, I'm feeling exactly the same, mate. I'm pumped for this. I've literally not 30 seconds ago finished watching episode 6 of Hawkeye, and I'm ready to talk about 4, 5, and 6. Ready to deep dive. I'm ready to get our final thoughts, our final ratings as well. I'm interested to know what kind of crisp packet content you're going to give it at the end of the episode, my friend. But look, I've got my Lucasade. I haven't had one of these in a while on the podcast. So I thought I'd go for it. Ooh, what you got?
An empty Pepsi Max.
Oh.
I've already finished my Pepsi. I'm feeling a little bit. A little bit.
Oh, yeah. Feeling good. I'm feeling good.
Hawkeye, Part 2. Thoughts. So, episode 4,
Yep.
I realised what I'd said in podcast 1. I would never have mentioned this
Yep.
ever before, but it was like my brain was going, Forrest, you know this is about to come up. Because Sloan Limited.
Slow limited. Yeah, I remember you talking
I
about
mentioned
it last episode.
last week, and literally, whole fucking rest of the series is about Sloan Limited, and
Yep.
it's about Jack, and so yeah, massively forgot about that, and then it all comes out within this episode, and this is the episode where we get Yelena's arrival, basically.
We do. I mean, finally, I think what I found with this episode, particularly for me, is this kind of slow start with episode 4. I think in terms of it starts the same way it finishes in episode 3. So literally simultaneously carry on straight away. I think there was some nice moments. I think for the most part, it kind of dragged on a little bit. But the moment Yelena comes into the picture, the whole tone of this series shifts massively. Becomes part of a bigger picture, becomes part of a bigger narrative. And I think her kind of introduction was perfect, mate. I think it was great. I've got some big moments, some low moments in this one in particular. But yeah.
Yeah, I just feel like this one is just, I don't know, Clint and Kate are great characters, but overall, like, there's too much of this series is just them or painful, emotional scenes with Clint. It just, yeah, I don't know. I feel it's got some quite big moments of this where you're a bit like, oh, is this going anywhere? Or are we just having, conversation after conversation? It's just... It doesn't go because they're in the same city the whole time. It's very much same locations, same characters. So like we say, until Yelena comes in with Maya, so we get Maya, Yelena, and Kate, basically, big old like fight thing going on. But yeah, it kind of I find it a bit dull, to be fair. In fact, episode 4 notes, I put fucking hell, nothing happens.
That's it. But that's it, mate. That's probably what I mean in terms of everything feeling a bit slow. It's very talkative, extremely talkative. I think we do get a couple of nice moments about about Natalie in terms of her death and the kind of repercussions around that, and Clint having these moments about not wanting Kate to get too close to him as a partner and stuff. It's like, I don't have a partner. I don't have this anymore. You know, when this happened last, you know, and Natasha died, right? So I think I put Natalie because my predictive text said Natalie instead of Natasha. I just realised that. I think in terms of the LARPers, I think the LARP characters coming back. What do you think about that? I like how it was paid off in episode 6, but I found them quite grating. Like, why should we have the need to bring back these characters?
Yeah, 100%, 100% agree. And you know, there's just lots of things that don't feel very strong in this series, and even when they have an opportunity, and we'll come to it. There's something in particular that I'm thinking of later on in the series where it's just like you've got such like an opportunity here, and it just goes with it. But yeah, the LARP characters, it kind of that was a funny joke early in the series, but I certainly didn't expect or really want them to come back. Do you know what I mean?
I found like there were one too many Avenger jokes as well.
Yeah,
in this episode, a lot of kind of quips about Clint. Oh, there's an Avenger in my living room, or you know, talking about, oh, you know, we're going to make a new Avenger outfits and costumes and stuff. And when they're having that discussion with the LARPers, I just kind of feel like it all went a little bit too far with the whole, oh, he's an Avenger, he's so serious. And it was just the comedy and the seriousness against the characters, kind of that, you know, the fact that Clint is, you can see Clint he is a serious character, right? You know, in the Avengers, and he's placed within these comical kind of scenarios. And that's kind of forced upon the script, I think, a little bit too much in this episode. But it's done quite nicely in other episodes as well. So I'm not too, like, overcome with hatred over it. But yeah.
Yeah, I think it has a bit of a She-Hulk effect where it kind of it uses the wider MCU and, in your words, Matt, the golden thread. But it does that to kind of ride on other things' successes in an almost nod to itself that it's not a very good product in itself, so it's got to mention the other Avengers to seem, you know, half interesting. But yeah, no, I didn't really get that. Although my favourite thing in this episode, favourite joke, there was a very good bit of humour where Kate, I think they're in a lift, Kate and Clint, and Clint basically keeps calling himself Clint, right? And I think, and Kate turns around and goes, "I've told you, there's a branding issue there with Clint."
Yeah,
and
I love that.
It proper makes me chuckle. I remember the first time I watched it, I was pissing myself. It's a very good and very adult joke, and I love it.
Yeah, what I love about that is that it kind of like it really links in quite quickly with a joke, but like I think for an audience that are family orientated, it would have gone straight over their heads. But that was definitely there, for the adults. I think it was great.
Awesome. Yeah. Any other like favorite highlights from this episode?
I sort of found myself questioning Maya's motives a little bit in terms of chasing down. And I know that she's after Ronin and not Ronin. I keep getting mixed up. Ronin. It just kind of feels like she's going a little bit too far. Also, surely she can just hire people to do that kind of data work for her as well. If she's kind of running the tracksuit kind of gang, and I'm assuming that she is running the tracksuit gang, or kind of being some sort of like lieutenant, sort of being puppeteered by Kingpin. But just the fact that she's kind of going out there doing the data work herself and stuff, I just kind of feel like she would have been a little bit more premeditated. But maybe it's all kind of on the cuff because it's all kind of very heart driven, isn't it? You know, the fact that she's going after revenge very quickly. But I just kind of feel like that it was all just a little bit too hot too quickly.
Yeah, I can agree. I can agree with that. I think also Maya's like character is a bit confused because of Kazi as well. Like I kind of feel like you've got two characters that are kind of equal power, which doesn't really work. So I'm like, it either needed to be just Maya or just Kazi in my mind, because naturally you got someone who looks after the thugs at the bottom, and then Pin at the top.
I think
But yeah,
with her character and with her character arc, we got that quite nicely in the earlier episodes about, you know, in terms of her context of her story, losing her father. But I think we just needed to see maybe just a little bit more development before she goes gung ho straight for him.
yeah,
You know, maybe it could have been a little bit more investigative kind of stuff from her character. Maybe we could have seen her trying to find the whereabouts, the pinpoint moments. Would have been nice. And I think, you know, I think this is for me going to cross the kind of whole series. Would have been nice to got more flashbacks with Ronan, I think, in terms of where he was, what he was doing, maybe particularly, you know, in the later episodes, we find out that he was working with Kingpin. And I don't know whether that could have been a thread throughout every episode. We see him in New York doing these contracts, and then later on, it gets revealed that he worked for Kingpin. That would have been great.
Yeah.
I think that would have been really, really cool to see that kind of reveal and that kind of twist that, oh my God, he actually worked for one of the biggest crime bosses in New York. You know, he didn't do good work, Ronan. He wasn't a good guy. Like, so Clint has done pretty horrendous stuff. And it would have been nice to have seen more of that, to maybe then justify the means for what Maya was attempting to do.
yeah.
That's what I think. Do you know what I mean? Like,
That's what I think.
I feel like I needed a little bit more, but like, you know, we've only got a certain amount of screen time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but I agree. I think, yeah, episode 4 felt a bit splintered to me a little bit.
Yeah,
it was all right. Episode 5 though. This is where my enjoyment comes in because we get Yelena, quite frankly. Thank God for Florence Pugh.
Oh.
I think she is by far one of the better performances in this series, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the other thing, actually. You know, I think Maya and Kazi, or Kazi, I'm not even sure how we would pronounce that, to be fair. But I think both characters, for me, I don't think the acting's great. It's just I find it a lot of moody faces for me between the two of them. And I don't really. It doesn't feel like a rich 3-layer character, really. It's like, you killed my dad, I'm angry, and I'm angry through the whole series. And there's no redeeming feature about my character whatsoever. Oh, and here's Kazi, who's just joining for the ride, and he's equally as moody.
Yeah, I suppose so. I think it kind of just doesn't really.
There's no like a villain has got to have like a little edge, right? That you're like, oh yeah, I like that, or I like it because they're such a dick, or you know, it's something. Whereas for me, there isn't any of that in this.
Well, maybe it's done deliberately because we're waiting for the reveal of Kingpin. The moment we get the big bad, to be honest, we don't get this big bad until this episode, do we? In terms of episode 5, so we kind of have to have this kind of, where's the antagonist? Who's the bad guy? Okay, you know, it's a good guy versus bad guy. Who's the bad guy? We don't really get that defined until episode 5, when we realise that it's all going to Kingpin at the top. So maybe that's what they were saving for, and we just kind of had this kind of muddied ground between episode 1 and 5.
True.
But like, I mean, I really, really enjoyed the Tracksuit Gang. Like in this, I said it last week. The last episode, I loved them. These you know, later episodes, I absolutely love them as well. The bit when they're in the car and they're having a little chat, I really, really love. You know, it's just so conversational. It's just so quirky. I can definitely see, and I've said this a lot, but I can definitely see some sort of like Marvel short or like series with them. They'll be so great.
In last week's episode, you mentioned about how like Spider-Man, it kind of missed Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And you were talking about kind of obviously the setting, right, where it is makes absolute sense. But also, I thought even more so, later in the series when you see more of the tracksuit gang and you meet Kingpin. I'm like, what? Hang on a minute, what the fuck? This is Spider-Man's villain, mate. This is Spider-Man's villains. These are all Spider-Man's characters. So it's certainly for this half of the series. I agree with you for the whole series, but this half, I'm like, how has Spider-Man not appeared at all in any of this?
If there was, like, with most Disney Plus MCU series, they kind of either get too many superheroes in one or not enough. And with this one in particular, all they needed to do in order to make this relatively good, on the whole, relatively good on the whole TV series, all they needed to do to make it great was bring in Spider-Man in these last 2 episodes. That's it.
Yeah.
Even if it's the last episode when they're having that big fight in the Rockefeller Center, bringing in Spider-Man at a cameo at a point there would have been great. I know why they didn't do it, because they were waiting for Multiverse of Madness, Far From Home, and not Far From No Way Home, and it's just I understand the reasoning, but like it just needed some sort of, even if a quick swing across the screen. That's all we needed.
Yeah. I absolutely, and I actually think the way that Kingpin goes in the last episode, I think would have been better off if his attention was diverted because something was going on with Spider-Man, and then that would have been your little tie-in.
Yeah,
he would have been like distracted by something else. He gets called by another one of his, gang. Episode 5, backstory for Yelena. So. My main gripe with the opening of this episode is how they have edited the episode. Again, right? We said last week what was weird was about Echo's introduction. That was a weird scene. But this is more about how they've cut scenes together, right? We start off, and I don't know, starts off the episode with a Yelena flashback, right?
Yeah.
Which is great, right? We see the pre-blip and then post-blip. And the same kind of scene unfolding, right? Which I think is brilliant, really well done. The acting in it's great, love it. But we go from that to a recap from the previous episode, and then it's very juttery. It's like, well, hang on a minute, this is part of this episode, so like it felt like it was like this shouldn't have been in Hawkeye, but we've just popped it here just for you. I'm like.
Mate, exactly. I had the exact same thoughts. Now, what I think is that they filmed that bit later, and maybe in their edits, dear listener, I'm completely speculating here, but like, I think they must have gone, oh, let's tag that on at the beginning of the episode instead of in the middle or at the end. I feel like this might have been an episode 4 end credit sequence.
Oh.
That's what I think it might have been when they had the reveal of Yelena in the fight and she left, and then it would have finished in that episode, and then we would have got the one end credit sequence, of the series so far, and that would have been it, and then that would have been episode 5. They decided to put it in the beginning of episode 5 as well. What do you think, dear listener? Do you think that's the case or not? I'm interested to know. Yeah.
Because with that, I feel like if that was the case, it would have been the bit in the bathroom post-blip.
Yeah.
I feel like the end credit would have been post-blip. Yelena walks in, she's like, what the hell? And then I think she mentions, I need to go and find my sister. Yeah. And that would have been it.
That would have been it.
That would have been the end credits. Whereas, absolutely, if that is the case, it feels like they went, actually, we need a bit more context or a little bit more of this scene. So we're going to pop the bit pre-blip into it and then bolt it on the beginning of the next episode. But it felt very odd, very, very disjointed.
It did.
That wouldn't be.
Do you think we're going to see in Thunderbolts? I'm talking about Thunderbolts here. Do you think we're going to see a little bit of Yelena pre-blip trying to hunt down the Black Widows and stuff? In trying to, that kind of that's a huge mission. When we watch Black Widow, you can see on the map, in terms of who was revealed, who is on, how many widows are out there. There've been millions, right? So it's a huge, huge mission. And she said, we've saved a lot. She doesn't really give a number, but like, I'd be interested to
Yeah.
know if there is in the pipeline some sort of either episode series for Florence Pugh. There must be she's a big name, right? She's a huge
Yeah.
name. There must be some sort of long-term plan with her. She's still relatively new to the MCU. You can't just kind of go, yeah, she'll do Thunderbolts and that'll be it. I think she's
Yeah.
gonna, be here for the long haul, much like Scarlett, much like Elizabeth Olsen,
Yeah, I wonder whether, I don't know if that belief has come from the fact that she's come into this being so good though. Like
Yeah,
I firmly believe that Marvel might have brought her in and just thought, oh yeah, Thunderbolts, chuck her in Hawkeye, and then we'll see. Like, because they'd already had Black Widow, right? They'd already had Scarlett Johansson, so they've done that character. We've met that family. So whether the reception to Yelena is what I'm saying will change the future of how much they use Yelena. I think she was probably intended for Thunderbolts, and then that was that.
yeah,
But actually, I think the success of Yelena and the popularity of Yelena will probably mean that she'll have her own. I think post Thunderbolts there'll be something a lot more there, which could tie into the fact that Scarlett Johansson's saying that she's in a TV series soon.
yeah.
Because that could be them two going about their biz. But who knows?
But I think this is very much Yelena's episode. I think this is very much about her story in terms of, I know we get developments in terms of, we get confrontation with Clint putting back the running suit, having a fight with Maya. We have that fight there. I quite like that moment when he talks about, she goes, "You're a monster." And he's like, "No, we're hired weapons. That's what we are. We are weapons. We will be used. We will be abused. We will be, and he goes, he does a really great line in harking back to Avengers Assemble when he gets his mind taken over by the one of the Infinity Stones, the Tesseract, and he goes, "Look, you can, you'll lose control." He said, I can't remember what he says, but like he mentions, you can be, quite easily misled and put under some other person's, what's the word? Spell. Let's say the word spell.
Ooh,
Ooh.
lovely. Ooh.
That's the only word that could come out of my brain. I was like,
spell.
The cogs are like, spell. Say spell.
So sad. Yeah, no, absolutely. I think in this episode, I just another comment I put is I just think the scenes are too long in this show.
Yeah.
So another ties in with the whole endless dialogue in this show, and just every scene is just too long. It's too many sat in a flat scenes. It's just there's not enough action in here. And I think I feared that when the Hawkeye series got announced. Naturally, with a character like Hawkeye, there's not a lot of action there because he is in the shadows. It's stealth, so and you can really feel that with this series.
Yeah.
But we do get Ronan and Maya at the end of this episode.
Yep.
And we also get Kingpin's arrival.
Oh, hello. Speaking of arrivals.
Speaking of arrivals, is Peggy the cat. Hello.
Do you know what happened there? Is that Peggy is not called Peggy. Peggy is called Kingpin because she just responded to her name.
Oh, wow. Kingpin. Kingpin. Yeah, I don't know what I'm doing. She's just licking my hand at the moment.
This cat, right? So just before we pressed record on this old episode, Peggy was absolutely attacking Forrester's headphones. I mean, it was it was brutal.
She was gnawing at him like someone I've never seen, and I had to. I didn't even push her, did I? I just kind of like budged her away, and she just absolutely catapulted off the table.
Well, you say a gentle nudge, maybe, but
yeah, Kingpin coming at you.
Coming at you.
She's going for a walk. So yes, we do get Kingpin. Kingpin again, major character, used for about 5 minutes.
It's a real.
This is his introduction to Kingpin. Literally, name is King. Mm-hmm. And we get him for 5 minutes.
Now, I don't know what happened here. We got a reveal. I'm trying to remember in my head when this was revealed. We were going to get Kingpin coming into the MCU. He's going to be introduced in Hawkeye. Great. Spider-Man villain, but mostly being used for a Daredevil villain in the Netflix series. Neck. Yeah, the Netflix series.
Love a Netflix
that
series.
Great TV streaming site called Netflix, where it's just documentaries about people's necks width. Anyway, and
nice.
Thank you. You don't get much screen time with him. We don't get much real background to him. We don't need to be honest, because we should all know who Kingpin is. He's a well-known enough villain, not only just across the kind of TV and sphere, but like also through comics, right? So, you know, we don't need much from him. But what we do need is the immediate threat. We need the immediate kind of source of like, boom, here he is. And I know we get this kind of craning shot, this kind of famous bit where we see the cane come straight in the beginning of episode 6 as well. But like, it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough screen time. I wanted to see him beat somebody up, like just unimportant, threatening. Yeah.
Also, all of these long scenes with shitload of dialogue, and yet we don't have a single scene, a lengthy scene with Kingpin talking.
Yeah, that's true.
Everybody else talks for like 40 fucking minutes around here, and yet the lead character, who's got shitloads to say, has said absolutely nothing but walk around.
And is utterly captivating when he does open his mouth as well. Like, you know, he is so good with his, you know, with the text that he does and with his acting in Daredevil. It's absolutely incredible. Like, dear listener, if you haven't seen Daredevil, do watch it. We will absolutely be reviewing it at some point here. We're going to have to, because I'm desperate to rewatch. Actually, do you know what? I'm desperate to rewatch that. Because it is so good. So we should definitely do it.
Peggy is absolutely trying to put on the screen now. Hello. You see what she's doing? Oh, you see what she's doing? She's jeopardising the podcast.
Sabotage.
This is absolute sabotage by Peggy. She's lying down. She's very comfortable, but too comfortable.
I love it so much.
Right. Anyway,
little mascot. Peggy's a mascot. We should get Peggy put into the artwork of Don't Be Here podcast now.
She is. Let's get a little preview.
Peggy, what do you think about Hawkeye? What? Peggy.
No big words now. Hello?
Any words?
Hello.
Oh, good focus there.
That was great.
That was great focus.
Oh.
Look how majestic you look right now.
Oh. I know. This is a podcast, so absolutely none of this material is worth its weight in gold.
Yeah, I'm so sorry.
But listeners are just going, what the fuck am I listening to? Honest to God. But yeah, check out Instagram. I'm sure Matt will make a lovely little reel of Peggy's face.
We will. So what you missed there, dear listener, was Forrest just kind of moving the camera around, deep, like proper extreme close up. At Peggy's bumhole.
Audio description from Matt there. Listeners, what you just missed was Forrest carried the camera directly to the left and downward spiral and introduced Peggy, which is a feline cat. A feline cat. A cat.
A feline cat. It was Peggy's face. It wasn't Peggy's bum.
Oh
sorry.
my gosh, she's going again. Peggy.
Oh, Peggy, what are you doing? Oh, he's gone. He's literally gone. I can't. That's so good. Dear listener, Peggy has ejected Forrest from the podcast. Like, actually.
Honest. Absolute anarchy. This podcast. I can only apologise. Honestly, I had a heart attack when I just saw the 404 pages in. Thanks, Peggy. Honestly, mate. Sophie's like, oh, we'll let Peggy into the podcast room. It'll be absolutely fine. Oh, she couldn't hurt a fly. Look what you've done, Sophie. You've tarnished our reputation in one episode. Peggy, never again, babe. You're never allowed.
Oh, no.
She can cry and scratch at the door all she likes, mate.
Is she gone? You kicked her out?
No. She's right behind the laptop.
Oh, right, okay. So these are empty threats then?
Yeah. Oh, no, next time. Okay. I'm going to carry her out now. That'll be,
fair play.
You know. Episode 6. It's Kingpin. It's Kingpin.
Sorry, yeah. So episode 6, we get this shot of Kingpin, low shot. Get the crane. He's walking through. They do this kind of lovely, kind of like under the chin kind of shots of Kingpin to get the kind of, the enormity of what he is meant to be. Now, again, in the comics, he is huge. If you play Spider-Man on the Insomniac games, when you fight Kingpin, like, it's just a huge bloke, right? Now in this series, he's not as big. They haven't put as much of body gear on him that he is in Daredevil. He's a lot bigger and a lot larger in Daredevil, which is fine. To be perfectly honest, like, he's a big enough dude. In fairness, like, you don't need to do it, and he's got enough kind of stance to him, gusto to kind of give out what the Kingpin needs, right? I love his performance in here. I love it. We've already said there's not enough. What I feel like is missing is we get too much of a kind of like, I love you, I care, I'm being manipulative here, with you, and it's not much viciousness. We get a little bit, we get short bursts of it, but the utter viciousness and malice that Kingpin has, and in terms of this delivery with Kingpin in particular, it comes out so much in Daredevil to the point that it's maniacal. But I did enjoy the moment when he has the initial scene with Maya, where he says I love you, goes, I love you, it was at that moment, again on this rewatch, I didn't notice it first time, so that actually, if we are following this from the Daredevil series, okay, we all understand that his family have been murdered, right? And that's his whole arc. That's his whole story. This whole reason why he does what he does, right? So he maybe does have this kind of paternal kind of duty with Maya, and maybe he truly does love her, and the fact that he feels like he's being betrayed is there. But again, it just happens so quickly. He just turns up and goes, "You betrayed me. I'm angry now." And it's like, need a little bit more. I don't know.
This series found the worst parts to elongate, and the best parts it shortened way too much. Yeah, like Kingpin should have been in it much earlier. Big old story arc, bring us the character. Yelena should have been in earlier. Big character arc. Like Kate and Clint should have had 2 episodes max. That's 100%. It. Should have been them two episodes maximum. Brilliant, it's great. But they're going to be in it all series regardless. So actually, let's bring the fucking goods out quickly. Let's get Kingpin out quick early door. Especially if by the end, he's going to have he's blatantly not dead, but he's certainly like crumbled under Kate's arrows.
Crumbled, I like that. Yeah,
crumbled.
I think. Go on. You say. I think you were going to say what I'm going to say.
I'm going to make it about CGI.
I was going to talk about CGI, but it wasn't what I was going to talk about next.
You talk about what you were going to talk about next.
Maybe it will follow on quite nicely, because I think it's got to do with...
Matthew, please take your turn first, Bale.
Thank you, Forrest.
Say what you've got to say.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
That is going to sound fucking awful. It's going to sound vile on the podcast.
I really apologise, dear listener. I gotta say, I am even aware of how horrid that might sound.
That is gonna sound horrible.
It's back. It's back.
He's back. He's back. Anyway, sorry, I digress. What was your point?
I think every time you're going to do that now, I'm going to call you Disco Forest. Like, Disco Forest has come to town.
It's Disco Forest. He's back.
Anyway, what I find really grating in this episode is the location for the final climactic part of the series is setting it in this kind of party building situation where it looks like it's meant to be some sort of weird James Bond-esque heist. All my words today. Or kind of like Die Hard kind of vibes as well, because it's Christmas. I don't know whether they've done that deliberately as well. It just all kind of and bringing all of these characters together in one space. Like we've got the LARPers back. We're trying to tie up all the stuff with Kate Bishop's mum and her dealings with the Kingpin. You know, they got rid of the dad very quickly for tax problems, and we don't see him again after that. And it's like kind of all these kind of, we have to wrap things up really quickly with these sub characters, you know, B-side characters into their Peggy's back. She's kind of like ruin it. She's like, don't you carry on, Matt. Go on, you carry on. You say anything out of line. I'm ejecting your friend at any moment. I can do it. She's staring at you.
She's staring at me. She's actually staring at me like, if he fucking says one fucking thing, I'll close this shit down. No more podcast.
This episode has been taken hostage by Kat.
Literally, she's never seen her so livid. Honestly, mate.
It's all started by biting on those earphones. You pissed her off, mate.
This is on you. The headphones pissed her off.
No, you chucked her off, mate.
Oh, I did not chuck.
I'm joking, he didn't.
Before I get absolute hatred and trending like on Twitter, hashtag Forest cat hurter, cat killer, cat whatever.
Don't be hero, Catgate.
Catgate. Oh, I can't believe Forest would treat a cat like that. Look at her, she's happy. She's fine.
She's alright. She's fine. Oh my gosh. Anyway.
Yeah. Anyway, lots of characters in one space.
Yeah. I mean, it was a bit too much. I just feel like they could have. I don't know. I just feel like this final battle, or kind of culmination. I know we got it in the Rockefeller Center, but it needed to be something like that. Peggy's giving me eyes. I feel nervous. You're judging me, mate. Like it needed to be in an expansive, bigger space because I know we got the fight in the Rockefeller Center later, but where they had the sequences of them jumping out of the windows, Clint getting stuck in a tree, what? Like why? I think they could have just done the party earlier on in the episode, or maybe in episode 5, be done with that bit, and then just have the whole final episode about the action. That's what you want, the final episode, just to be nothing but fighting, right? You will get, the other series do that. We got that in WandaVision. We should have got that in this series as well. You've got enough stories playing out. You gave her evils there. So what's going on?
Honestly, mate, it is absolute chaos over here.
Oh,
your point is brilliant. She is clicking all sorts of buttons on my mixer. It is... Peggy, please, babe, can we just calm it down? Peggy, let's just calm it down, please. That's it. Let's sit down. Does my volume sound all right? Has my microphone done a weird setting?
No, you're good. You're good. It's all right, mate. Don't. I know.
It's stressed me out, man. This is stressing me out. Soph's out. She's asked me to make sure Peggy's in the room. Yeah. Fucking anarchy, mate. Literally, like she is. Yeah, she now pressed a little head against the wall, like she can hear me and she's not happy.
Do you know what? This, mate. I think what's really important here, dear listener, is that now than ever is the best time to sign up to our Patreon, because this will give Forrest the opportunity to buy Peggy a lovely little Don't Be a Hero podcast little setup in the corner of his room. Peggy can feel included. We can maybe get an extra screen in, have a little Peggy cam somewhere. But like, if you want to sign up to our Patreon, it's all there in our Linktree bio. It's in this episode bio as well. please do help to the cause for the dear forest as it needs to provide the right conditions for Peggy.
Off the keyboard, babe. Off the keyboard. Oh,
Peggy's
God.
involved as well. She agrees. You should
She does
definitely
agree.
sign up to our Patreon. We've got a £2, £3, £5, even a £10, I think, tier. All right, exclusive
Matt-
content.
He's ever the professional. You are ever the professional, mate. Look at you just ploughing away with the Patreon. Let's ignore. But yeah, anyway, I'm going to ignore it. Let's get back. So, completely agree. Everything going on at the same time. We got Maya kills Kazi. Maya kills Kingpin. CGI that I was going to mention earlier. The terrible piece of CGI was of Eleanor running into Kingpin.
Yes.
And the car goes in, and he falls like an absolute sack of shit. But it is the weird, just the vision of it is awful. No.
Now, I've got a massive gripe here, and this has kind of gone down a little bit in my notches in terms of ratings for the series. We've got Kingpin in here, okay? Kingpin is a huge, huge villain. We need to be making sure that Kingpin is protected as a villain as well, all right? Kingpin doesn't fall on his arse that easy. He doesn't. I'm sorry. Even with explosions, it's not going to make him fall on his arse, okay? Even if that's the case, he'll kind of either be pushed back, he'll kind of drag his heels, and his kind of rubble will go behind him, and he'll kind of push it a little bit. Like, they make Kingpin fall in his arse one too many times, man. It's like, right, the only best way I can describe this is, dear listener, if you're not a wrestling fan, this is going to go completely over your head. But there was used to be, in the 80s and in the early 70s, early 80s and 90s, just 80s, Andre the Giant, huge wrestler, right? And there was a moment in WrestleMania, I think one or two, I can't remember now, but like Hulk Hogan, he's never been picked up. He's never been put on his ass before. He's this gargantuan man that people can never defeat. Hulk Hogan lifts him up and does a scoop slam and becomes one of the most immortalized pieces of wrestling ever in history, right? And it's that's Kingpin. You need to build up to that moment, right? If we need to protect Kingpin and make him a serious threat and potential future villain for other Spider-Mans out there, because Miles Morales could have a go at Kingpin at some point in the future, we need to protect that. And I think he falls flat on his ass a little bit too much, mate.
Yeah. No, can absolutely agree.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. I don't think they knew what they wanted to do with it. They had this strong character of Kingpin, and they were like, "Oh, well, how do we get rid, or what do we do?" And is he dead? Because he gets shot, right?
I'm. Do you know what? I'm pretty sure the people that wrote this or put him into this series didn't watch the Daredevil series.
Yeah.
I think they probably watched a couple of stills and saw him as that person and went, "Okay, cool, let's slot him into our story then." And then that was it. Because I don't know. I just felt like he got kind of sold short a little bit.
Yeah.
No.
What
I did enjoy though is Clint's and Yelena's scene at the end with in the Rockefeller Center when they talk about Natasha. The fight scene. I mean, I remember watching it the first time. I legit thought this is how Clint's going to die. She's gonna literally kill him. And you get that intensity. You believe that. Testament to both their acting, testament to both of their performances in this scene. And I think that both the fact that they're so grief-struck from Black Widow's loss, it all makes sense. And in terms of the way that it's finished, I think it's played well, and I think it's done very tonally to the characters. I really enjoyed it. One of my highlights of the series, I think.
I would have liked to have seen that scene play out. It was so fantastic. It would have been nice not to have that spliced up with the Kingpin scenes. I would have liked one continuous scene of Yelena and Clint. I think they deserved it, to be fair. Big moment that was.
100%.
And it was brilliant. Like you say, brilliant acting, brilliant emotion, feeling of it. It was fantastic. I've got a question for you.
Yeah, go on then. Yeah.
Do you know the significance of the back of the watch that we see at Christmas Day at the end of the episode?
It's got to do with Clint's wife, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
Yes, go on. You tell me. You finish it off with me. That's all my brain can remember.
So on the back, it's got the kind of well-known shield symbol, little eagle thing,
Yep.
and the number 19. Now, the number 19 relates to a superhero called Mockingbird. Now, Mockingbird is a comic, it's a comic character, which is an alternative wife for Clint. So the character we meet in this series isn't Mockingbird. It's a completely different character actually in the comics. I think her name might be Betty. I think if I remember correctly, it's a B.
Yep. Yeah,
I think it's
so.
Betty. And it is a reference to a Mockingbird.
Oh.
Now I think it's only going to be a reference. I don't think we're ever going to meet Mockingbird, but potential.
It's confirmed though that Clint's wife was a Shield agent.
What this one? This iteration of the wife? I don't know. Has it been confirmed? I think it must be, because if that's her watch, she's got Shield on the back of it. So it must be. So and it might be that she is specifically Mockingbird. But I don't know if it's been
Laura Barton.
Laura Barton. That's it.
So it says a former Shield agent. She's actually Agent 9, as known as Mockingbird.
Agent 9.
Maybe
So not
19. Sorry, 19.
19. Yeah.
So I think it's confirmed that she was, but I think they didn't really lean into much of the actual superhero Mockingbird as much. They just used it as an alias, I think, in this current iteration of MCU 616. Yeah. There we go.
There we go. Yeah. It's a big one.
Nice. It's a big one. That's a big one. I think in terms of, any massive reveals and stuff, we don't really get it. There's no real huge kind of oh my God moments. There's no real kind of turning around. Who is it? Oh no, it's, who's that? I don't know. Oh, who? Echo? Okay, cool. Fine. Why not? We don't, we got that there, but we don't get that, much at all in terms of genuine twists and turns. And to be honest,
shot would have been better with Kingpin, by the way.
Oh,
they could have absolutely pulled it off with the back of Kingpin, and then Kingpin turned around and it's his face. That would have been great. Much better shot for me. Recognisable character, big presence, job done.
Yeah, I mean that's it. I think overall, in terms of the end credit sequence, we get the Rogers the Musical number of "I Can Do This All Day." The actual entirety of the number, and it's class. It's such a good piece of musical theatre, my dear listener. You just gotta go watch it. Honestly, I've been singing it for days. It's so good. I can do this all day.
I could do this all. Hang on.
Oh my God! I wasn't expecting that. You don't know what that sounds like, do you?
No, because
you're gonna fall on your ass, mate, when you hear that back.
Oh God.
Okay, right. We need final ratings. This has been a hell of an episode. Okay.
I know. Oh God.
Give us a final rating, mate. What do you think of this series as a whole?
I think crisp rating. This is.
Don't you listen to it, Forrest? Pause there for starters. Forrest literally just kind of leant back in his chair, yawned in the middle of it, just yawned, right, crossed his arms. Well, you know what?
I'm knackered. Peggy's pissed me off. No, I think this for me has got to be. I think this is cheese and onion. This is I wouldn't pick it as a crisp packet. If I had it, I would not enjoy it. Cheese and onion crisps are really. I never pick them. I never eat them. When I do, I always like, oh, it's not as bad as I remember every time. and that's kind of what this is. It's not that bad, but it's not. I wouldn't pick it. I think
No.
for me, it's far like the good stuff comes far too late, and they speed roll through it all. Yelena should be there from episode 2. You know, more if anything, more Bishop, less Clint. Quite frankly, Clint is so reflection. For me, this series could have done with Yelena much earlier, get rid of that arc, and then they both fight Kingpin. That would have been amazing for me, right? Episode 3, Yelena and Clint. Is she going to kill Clint? No, she don't. And then we get this kind of awesome lineup of Kate, Yelena, Clint, Kingpin, ultimate enemy, like built up over 3 episodes.
Yeah.
That would have been perfect.
I like that. That's a great way to finish off. I think in terms of, for me, this is a sharing bag of ready salted hula hoops. Like, it's like fine. It's okay. If it's the last thing I need to have, or if there's the only option, I'm going into a gas station, a petrol station. I'm going to go and grab some crisps. I can't choose. I'll just go for the really salty hula hoops. So I'll just go for those. You'll get it. You got it. You quench you're going to get your fill with it. This series for me is saved by really good performances by really good actors, and in terms of, I think Haley Steinfeld in her introduction as Kate Bishop is fantastic. I think it's brilliant, and I'm really excited to see more of her. Great addition for Yelena, more the character development from her, smashes it out of the park, Florence Pugh. I think Kingpin, as much as I absolutely love that role, and I still do, I think he kind of fell short a little bit in terms of actually getting enough time and getting enough kind of gusto out of that. I've got to say, top for me, it's got to be Jeremy Renner. I think his performance in Clint in here, it's brilliant. He's such a good actor, and I think it's really understated, and I think it's dealt with delicately, and I think he shows humility in his character. I think he shows tenderness with also being fierce, being stoic, and lots of character development with Clint. And again, I'm really interested to see what happens with this character going forward. And obviously, get well, Jeremy. He's been doing an incredible journey in terms of his own health, from his snowplow accident and stuff. So I think, I just when I think about him, I watched this documentary about his accident not long ago, and it really cuts me up, man. Like, it genuinely does. Like, what an incredible man. So yeah, I've just got to say that for me kind of goes, he's I'd hate to see Hawkeye now go, I'm not going to do it anymore. I feel like we're getting to that point. Even like Chris Hemsworth is like almost going, I don't know whether I want to do one. I'll only do another Thor if they want me to do one. And so I just kind of get a feeling that we might even lose those kind of OG characters quite soon. And I don't want to do that, because I think we're getting more out of certain characters, for instance Hawkeye. So narrative wise it was okay, but it just I think some of the performances saved it. That's me, mate. This has been, to be honest, delightful. Nothing like a wonderful episode where things go unexpectedly awry. All for your listening or watching pleasure, dear listener. Because we're going to have to put a few reels up now to get context into this. So if you're listening to this, dear listener, you're now going to have to hop over to Instagram, either right now if it's already up, or later in the week when it is, to really understand truly the chaotic nature
chaos
of this.
that we have been through. What an almighty 55 minutes this has been.
Mate, next week I'm really, really excited for our episode, because it's our news episode roundup, and it will be the episode that we will do our roulette for our wildcard movies that will be coming out. So we're going to be stepping away from the MCU run through in phase 4, and we're going to go into wildcard movies, and we'll put out an Instagram post at some point next week to get all of your suggestions. We'll get them on a roulette, and we'll do it live as well on our stream to reveal what the movies will be. So we do hope that you can join us on that one as well. But we'll give you some information and news later out next week. What I would like to do as well, Forrest, actually, and particularly in that episode, I'd like us to really talk about these strikes that are happening with SAG, with the writer's strike, but now as well the actors are now on strike in America. Now, in terms of the unions that are taking part in this, I think it's really, really important about talking about the subjects and the things that they're talking about, and maybe shed a little bit more light. And also, I would be really interested as well from your perspective, Forrest, as an actor that is working and living in the UK, and a creative from my part as well as a working professional in the UK as well, of sharing our own thoughts on what's going on over there and how that might and what that might mean for our industry as well.
Yeah, absolutely. We our union equity released quite an interesting statement, so we will cover some of that as well. But yeah, lots and lots to hopefully talk about next week, and get those wildcard suggestions. I can't wait for another bout of wildcards. So we'll probably have some wildcards. I reckon we'll have a little summer break, and then we'll be back for Marvel big time.
Yeah, can't wait.
It's been an absolute honour, Matt, as normal, mate.
Mon pleasure. It's so great to see your faces per usual. Thank you, dear listener, for listening as usual as well. We really, really appreciate you. Thank you so much if you're listening straight to the end. Honestly, you guys are the best. Genuinely. And I'm not just saying that. I'm not blowing smoke at your ass, right? You are genuinely great. We really appreciate you. All right.
I could do this all day.
Da, da, da.
I could do this all day. I think your adventure saved me today.
Yeah.
Living in New York, getting in New York. Saving today. Saving today. Saving today. Oh, sexy as fuck. Ciao for now.